Welcome back, Calvary Watch Care members. This is Sister Means with you for another episode of Greenleaf, Season 4. Episode 4, A Common Enemy. Alright, so in this episode, we have Bob wanting Grace to meet with Kyle Weaver, who is the pastor of an all-white congregation that is diminishing in numbers. Used to be quite a big church, but they're in a church that is rapidly losing money. And he wants to integrate them into Calvary because they're part of Hope and Harmony as well, or Harmony and Hope rather. And wants Grace to meet with him to discuss the possibility of doing that. Of course, she reaches out to her parents. They talk about this, and Lady Mae's saying no, black church should be black church. Bishop's like, this has nothing to do with racial integration. This has everything to do with money. Bob's total motivation is money. That church is losing money and has lost congregations. So he's just trying to recruit loss. And we know that if integration is successful, there will not be a black pastor heading the integration of the church, and especially not a woman. So of course Lady Mae orders Grace to shut this down. Grace does meet with Cal, finds out that he's not interested in integrating either. So I'm going to basically skip past the other stuff that goes on in between for a moment to end this segment of things. Ultimately, Grace delivers this stirring sermon. Kyle was in attendance, and it was one that caused the whole church to respond, but it was a sermon. The sermon was about unifying and not division. But basically the one is, woe unto those that come up against God's people, because they will rise up. And it was like that double meaning that Phil and Bob did not like. And Grace was warned that if she did anything like that again, that her and her family would be out and it would be all her fault. That's how this episode ended. Kyle decides to keep his church, and that's what makes Bob mad, because his goal was to get them to integrate. Phil's very insecure. He is pressuring Charity to get something on Grace ASAP, or they both won't have a future there. So Charity tries to talk to Corinne and get her to gossip about Grace and find out what's going on with Grace and why Noah was there. When Corinne tells her, hey, you need to back all the way up. You want to know something about your sister, go see her and talk to her. She's like, I'm just trying to see if I can hook Phil up with her. And she said, I thought you were into him. And she said, no, I hate him. And then other people heard her and said, well, I don't hate him, but but Corinne said, I'm telling you for real, you need to just back up off me. So when she can't get any information from Corinne, Charity calls Noah, leaves a message. Isabel hears the message. And Noah has to tell her everything. So he told her the truth, but Isabel finds out that he actually has a kid with Grace, and she can't have one, or at least has been having difficulties. She's done. She kicks Noah out. Noah calls Grace, tells her what Charity did, tells Grace, hey, I'm moving back to Memphis so that I can get to know my son. So that happened at the very, very end. And we do see Phil is, writing sermons and everything. Desiree Bordeaux offers Bishop an opportunity, a preaching engagement in Atlanta. And Lady Mae's like, this is not the right timing. Do you miss the spotlight that much? And he's like, well, what do you want me to do? It's just one engagement, and look, I can't have sex. So that was just kind of funny. Grace is helping AJ to integrate into Memphis. He's like, well, who's supposed to see me? You know, come see me when nobody's supposed to know I'm here. And she says, I will. He's like, that's not working for me. So Sophia secretly returns home to meet with her brother. And she does go to see him. She was invited. Zora was inviting her to do some activity. And she said, oh, I got plans with Roberto. She lied to Zora because she's actually meeting with her brother. Well, Zora found out she lied, and now she's angry because Sophia and AJ were talking. He was giving the story about being a child that was ushered from house to house, and you know, some of the bad treatment he received and that type of thing, and you know, how he doesn't have anybody. And you know, Sophia, of course, is trying to be reassuring that he has her, and he's like, you're just like your mother, you know, you're always rushing to save the day. And she said, I'm nothing like my mother. But they're drinking, and she winds up falling asleep. Now, there are some people that says he was not looking at her in a brotherly way, that he was looking at her as, like eye candy, like I want to get with that type of thing. I didn't necessarily see that, but tell me your thoughts on that. Put your comments below, but I don't know, we'll see. When she wakes up, she goes home, she packs to leave. She's trying to leave without being noticed. Sure enough, Lady Mae sees her, says, how are you here? How are you about to leave and I didn't even know you were here? What is going on between you and Grace? Talk to me. I need some answers. And, you know, Sophia's not breaking her mother's secret, but she tells her mom, I'm not going to tell you a secret, but I ain't going to come back here until everybody knows about AJ. And, you know, she is still heated with Grace. And even though I may understand her little feelings, excuse me, you don't know everything. And you see what you see, you believe that's unfair. But you don't know everything. And Grace is not entitled to tell her, doesn't have to tell her anything. She doesn't have to justify her actions. She was young. She wanted, you know, she wanted to abort him, but opted not to, and allowed him the opportunity to have life. So, you know, I'm tired of AJ throwing that in her face like, well, I'm sorry I was even born. You know, your life, you have a life. You were given life. It wasn't that she didn't want him. It was just that where she was in her headspace, being young, going through all this with the church, going through all this with the whole thing with Mac at the time, having to leave Noah because her parents were flipping the bill for his education. She didn't want to ruin that for him. She didn't want him to know all that about Mac at that time because he would have probably done something stupid to jeopardize his future. And so she removed herself from the equation. And she wasn't there financially to do what she needed to do by him. There's 6 years difference between Sophia and AJ. So I don't know what happened in that 6 years. Maybe she got the show. You know, she finished her college degree, got a show, making good money. You know, she got pregnant with Sophia, decided to have Sophia. But, you know, we don't know all of the inner workings of that. And there's a lot of people that said, well, AJ has a right, she threw him away like trash. No. When a person is, you know, literally throws a baby in a dumpster or tries to make it so that the child gets some type of exposure and dies, that's literally throwing a child away. The fact that she said, you know, I'm not in the right space, whether financially, mentally, emotionally, to be a mother at this time, was a wise decision. And, you know, to her credit, she could have aborted. She opted not to do that and give him a chance at life. So I don't feel like she threw him away. I think she made the best decision she could for herself at the time and for the baby. Sometimes people try to take on more than that. She was at a vulnerable state. Her faith had been shooken in the church, in her family, and she's 18 years old and she's alone. That's a scary situation. So I don't believe she threw him away. I mean, I understand he may not understand what she was going through, and you know, he would have liked to have had a mother. He got angry because the second, you know, when he first came around, she wasn't necessarily open to the idea of embracing him at that time. But you know, I don't think she threw him away. That's the bottom line. Alright, so Kerissa and Jacob meet up with Fernando. Fernando has these, you know, they discuss the site planning. Everything looks good. Jacob is kind of convinced now to go through with closure. And Carissa's admiring his cufflinks, and she's like, where can I get those for Jacob? These are gorgeous. He said, oh, these were custom made. And then he inquires about whether or not they had a problem with closing on the Sabbath, and apparently they didn't. Kerissa and Lady May had mixed words. Kerissa has an appointment to meet with Phil DeMoss, and Lady May is trying to meet with Bob. So she's printing out her Day with Lady May's sermon for Bob to review, because she is still trying to be pastor, and Carissa's trying to print out material on excellence to submit to Phil to talk about the program. He wanted to hear more about it, and they kind of run into each other at the printer. So Lady May has already started printing her sermon. She questions Kerissa about the whole thing with the house, the real church plot. And Kerissa says, well, we have the right to sell what is ours. And Lady May says, yeah, Eve was free to eat the apple, and look where it got her. Look where it got all of us. And she says, well, look at here. I done used up all the toner. I will have Marcel go out and get you some toner as soon as possible, because we know how you don't like the wait. Lady May does meet with Bob. She discussed her concerns about integration and how culturally, the cultural importance of the church to the black community, and how the repercussions of integrating a all-white church could have for both parties. Bob expresses that, you know, we're all God's children, and the church, you know, is no longer Calvary, is hope and harmony, and harmony and hope. And harmony and hope is about diversity and you know, embracing all of God's children. And he believes that grace is the person that can unite both churches, and if she's not, he finds somebody else. He also let her know that he did review the sermon and he got the tape and watched it. Kerissa meets with Phil, discuss excellence. It seems like that was a fabulous meeting. It went very well. And then she notices his cufflinks look like Fernando's. So she winds up calling Nadine to ask her to dig a little deeper into this commercial developer. And of course Nadine comes back and tells her that, you know, hope and harmony and hope are behind it. But she still goes through with the sale of the property. So, of course, Grace delivers that riveting sermon that that causes Kyle to keep his church. That's how that ended. So this is where we are, and I am saying woe unto Kerissa, because she has just really, everybody is they're supposed to be working together as a family, but they're working against one another. Her desire to have her own place and get from under Lady May's household has led her to deceive her husband for the sake of getting a home. And I believe that should Jacob ever learn what she did and what she knew before she did it, it will be a done deal. I believe that it would definitely put their marriage on the line, and it should. It should, because how can you want something like that, knowing that anyone else could have bought the property, but why would you knowingly allow this to go down? And the next week, where Lady May grips her up, I am so hitting for it. Okay, tell me your thoughts on the show. Vote whether you like this video or not. Leave comments below. I welcome, and I do apologize. There's so many things going on. I do need to do some other videos to fill you in. But I just want to thank all new members for signing up and clicking on the video. Thank you for watching. If you haven't already, you've come this far, go ahead and take that step down the aisle and click that subscription button. Alright? Until the next episode,